At 76 years old and with millions of fans around the world, André Rieu has long been known as the man who always appears on stage with a radiant smile. But in early 2024, an unexpected incident during a tour in Mexico caused many people to worry about the health of the King of Waltz for the first time. For many years, the public has been accustomed to seeing André Rieu as a symbol of joy, optimism, and vibrant concerts. Yet behind those dazzling melodies lies a life marked by far more hardship than most people have ever known. From a childhood lacking affection, years of conflict within his family, to health challenges and painful losses throughout his career, André Rieu's journey bears little resemblance to the fairy tale audiences often see on stage. And to understand why that moment moved so many people so deeply, we need to return to the earliest years of his life. André Rieu was born in 1949 in Maastricht, the Netherlands, into a large family where music was present everywhere. His father was a respected conductor who devoted much of his life to rehearsals, orchestral scores, and exceptionally high artistic standards. From the outside, the Rieu family seemed to possess all the ideal conditions for nurturing a musical talent. But many years later, André would describe his childhood in very different terms. In interviews, he has shared that the home where he grew up did not always feel warm and comforting. Discipline, achievement, and perfection were often given top priority, while expressions of affection were relatively rare. André once said that he could remember very few hugs or words of encouragement that children often expect from their parents. It was an experience that left a profound mark on his character for many years afterward. Perhaps that is why music became a special refuge for young André. At around 5 years old, he began learning the violin and was quickly captivated by the emotions that music could evoke. While his daily life was surrounded by strict rules, melodies gave him a sense of freedom, connection, and self-expression in a way that words could hardly convey. Many people later observed that André Rieu's concerts are always filled with joy, laughter, and a sense of closeness. Perhaps that is no coincidence. For him, music has never been solely about technique or perfection. It is also a way of giving others the emotions that he himself longed to find during the early years of his life. However, as André grew older and began developing his own artistic views, the distance between him and his famous father became increasingly apparent. As he entered adulthood, André Rieu began to realize that he viewed music very differently from his father. While the academic world emphasized precision and the formal nature of classical music, André was drawn to melodies that could touch audiences' emotions directly. He loved the waltzes of Johann Strauss, loved the joyful atmosphere they created, and believed that music should make people feel happy rather than merely admire technical performance. This difference gradually led to conflicts within the family. According to André's reflections many years later, he often felt that his choices were not taken seriously. For a young man trying to find his own identity, that was far from easy. He began to understand that if he wanted to live according to his beliefs, he might have to accept following a path completely different from what his family expected. The biggest turning point came when André met Marjorie, the woman who would later become his wife. The relationship gave him the feeling of being understood and supported in a way he had always been searching for. However, according to many accounts, this choice was not welcomed by everyone in the family. Caught between pressure and faith in his own future, André decided to make the choice he believed was right. It was an extremely difficult decision, because freedom sometimes comes with loss. But looking back decades later, André admitted that this period taught him an important lesson. People cannot spend their entire lives trying to meet the expectations of others. And it was this decision to step outside his comfort zone that opened the door to the most important new chapter of his life, one in which Marjorie became an irreplaceable companion in both his personal life and career. If André Rieu is the face that appears under the spotlight, then Marjorie is the person who quietly stood behind many of his successes. The two built a life together while they were still very young, at a time when André had not yet become an international star. During the years when he struggled to establish himself in the music world, Marjorie was always the one who believed in ideas that even he was not always completely certain about. In 1978, André founded the Maastricht Salon Orchestra with the goal of creating a style of performance that felt more accessible to the public. It was a direction that differed considerably from the traditional classical music environment of the time, where formality was often placed above all else. While many people were skeptical of the idea, Marjorie saw the potential in what André was pursuing and consistently encouraged him to keep moving forward. Her role extended far beyond that of a wife. Over the years, Marjorie also became involved in creative aspects, helped manage business matters, and assisted André in maintaining a balance between his personal life and his demanding performance schedule. Those who have worked with them often describe their relationship as a true partnership, in which both contributed to building the musical empire known today by millions of audience members. In 1987, André took the boldest step of his career by founding the Johann Strauss Orchestra. He wanted to transform classical concerts into events filled with emotion, color, and joy, rather than overly solemn performances. The idea was initially met with skepticism, but it was Marjorie's unwavering support that gave him the confidence to pursue his dream to the very end. Soon afterward, the world began to take notice of the violinist from Maastricht. But along with his growing fame came increasingly harsh criticism from some members of the professional community, who disagreed with the way André was reshaping the image of classical music. Throughout the 1990s, André Rieu's career began accelerating in a way that very few classical musicians had ever experienced. One of the biggest turning points came when Dmitri Shostakovich's Waltz No. 2 was performed before hundreds of millions of viewers watching the UEFA Champions League final. That moment not only introduced his name to a global audience, but also demonstrated that classical music could thrive in mainstream settings and reach people who had never set foot in a concert hall. The following years witnessed the remarkable rise of André Rieu and the Johann Strauss Orchestra. Album after album achieved impressive success, tours sold out across numerous countries, and millions of people began viewing his concerts as family-friendly entertainment experiences. What endeared André to audiences was not only the music itself, but also the joyful and welcoming atmosphere he created on stage. However, the greater his commercial success became, the more criticism emerged from certain segments of the academic and classical music community. Some critics argued that he was oversimplifying classical music to appeal to popular tastes. Debates over the artistic value of this performance model continued for years and frequently appeared in the media. Even so, André rarely responded directly. He repeatedly stated that his goal had never been to alter the essence of classical music, but rather to help more people feel connected to it. For him, seeing thousands of audience members leave a concert with smiles on their faces was always more important than endless academic debates. Yet while his career was at its peak and everything seemed to be unfolding perfectly, more serious challenges emerged. This time, they were not criticisms from professionals, but personal setbacks and health issues that had the potential to directly affect his future. After many years of almost non-stop touring, André Rieu was forced to confront the reality that even the most energetic performers have limits. In 2010, he suffered a serious inner ear condition that affected his balance. It was a major shock because most of his life had revolved around the stage, constant travel, and an intense work schedule. For the first time in many years, André was compelled to cancel numerous performances in order to focus on recovery. Although his health gradually improved, other challenges continued to arise. In 2016, he and the orchestra faced the loss of Ruud Merckx, a close friend and longtime member of the Johann Strauss Orchestra. For André, this was not merely the passing of a colleague, but the loss of someone who had accompanied him through much of the journey of building his musical dream. He spoke of Ruud with great respect and emotion on many occasions afterward. Then came the COVID-19 pandemic, when the live entertainment industry nearly came to a standstill worldwide. Tours were postponed or cancelled, revenues declined, while hundreds of employees and musicians still needed support. André later shared that this was one of the most stressful periods of his career because he felt responsible for so many families whose livelihoods depended on the orchestra and the extensive operation behind the concerts. It was during these turbulent years that many people began to see a different side of André Rieu from the ever-smiling figure on stage. Behind the lively waltzes stood a man striving to protect everything he had built over decades. And as he entered his 70s, he also began reflecting more deeply on the future, on the balance between work and health, and on the things that truly matter in life. That was when his family, particularly his son Pierre, began taking on a greater role in helping André reduce his workload and prepare for the next chapter of his life. At 76 years old, André Rieu continues to appear on stage and bring music to audiences around the world. However, those who have followed him for many years have noticed that his pace of work has changed significantly compared to the past. After decades of virtually living on tour, André now spends more time with his family, focuses more on his health, and enjoys the peaceful moments that he once rarely had the opportunity to experience. During this period, his son Pierre Rieu has increasingly assumed greater responsibilities in the business and organizational aspects of international tours. This support allows André to focus on what he loves most, performing and connecting with audiences. Rather than carrying the full burden of operational pressures as he once did, he now has more freedom to enjoy the rewards of a lifetime devoted to music. Away from the stage, André and Marjorie continue to live in Maastricht, in the historic home he has always considered his true place of belonging. After years of traveling across the world, it is where he finds peace alongside his family, grandchildren, and loved ones. Many people who have met André in recent years remark that he still possesses the familiar enthusiasm for which he is known, while also becoming more reflective and thoughtful about life. Perhaps the greatest change is not found in his schedule or his age, but in the way he views his career. If in the past André constantly pursued larger stages, longer tours, and new records, each performance now seems to carry a different meaning. It is no longer a race towards success, but an opportunity to express gratitude to the audiences who have stood by him for decades. And that is precisely what leads many people to wonder whether the concerts of the coming years may gradually become the final chapter of an extraordinary journey that has spanned nearly half a century. Whatever the future may hold, André Rieu has left a unique mark on the world of music in his own way. Not only has he brought classical music closer to millions of people, but he has also demonstrated that joy, human connection, and compassion can be an integral part of great art. If you enjoy stories about musical legends and the inspiring journeys behind the spotlight, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments section below.